Well, good evening. Welcome back to the Unified Solution. And in our series of talking with A1 supported independents, tonight we're going to my old stomping ground of Victoria. Chisholm is a pretty big seat in Victoria, and there's been some big names attached to that seat over the years. An A1 supported candidate who's holding her hand up for election this time round to become a loud voice of the people inside the Parliament for Chisholm is Dominique Murphy. And joining me tonight, Dominique, thank you very much for coming along. You look cosy there. I bet it's a little chillier outside.
I'm sure it is. I've been out walking the dogs, but it wasn't too bad.
So you must have been, on walking the hustings, not just the dogs lately. What's the reaction to you on the streets telling people what you're doing? And well, let's start at the beginning. What made you stand up this time? It's your first time running for election, so
It
what
is.
triggered the whole I'm going to get involved, I'm going to hold my hand up, and I'm going to be seen and seen to be doing something?
I think really it was a combination of factors, but the main one was I just became aware that there were so many things that were just wrong, including the whole treatment of the COVID-19, but way before that, a whole lot of things in terms of health and wellness. And I just felt that someone had to do something, and it seemed to be my time.
Well, friends and family, did they urge you into it, or did you just announce one day over the breakfast table that this is what the plan for the day was?
No, well, I came I firstly joined a No 5G party because I understand the impacts that all this electromagnetic fog is having on the body.
Yeah.
And was considering standing for a candidate with them, but they couldn't get the numbers because the I guess it was the government or the Electoral Commission changed the requirements to register as a party.
All of the
Um,
above?
yeah. So I found out about Australia One, and they really resonated with me because they covered the whole gamut of what I saw as the issues, not just looking at a single let's stop the mandates or let's improve the economy, but they were doing the whole box and dice. So that really resonated with me, and I became a supporter group leader.
Yeah, wow, okay. So clearly somewhere along the line you've come across the Australia One ethos and
Mm.
probably on Ricardo Bosi. Um, what made you feel that you would stand beside them?
Well, I can see that the whole issue is more than just Australia; it's worldwide, and they recognise that there's a lot going on in the world. This whole push for globalisation, which is really knocking on our door in terms of the international health regulations that they're looking to change, so that they can lock down the whole world at whim, if you like.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization, and that's just frightening, really
And
frightening.
that starts a week after the election. That's
It's
when that
yes,
law comes into place, the following
it's
weekend after the election.
yes, it's
And people
yes.
need to be very aware that we lose our sovereignty at that point. So, I'm really pleased to hear, Dominic, that you will be a voice to stand up in the, Parliament, a voice for Chisholm, but I suspect a great many more people around Australia who want to protect our sovereignty. I'm a big believer in that which government creates, it can uncreate, and therefore we need as many independents in the Parliament as possible this session so that, things like this horrifying piece of legislation that Kevin Rudd is responsible for. And people might remember that back in 2007, Ruddy was heavily involved with our politics, but then decided after he was unceremoniously dumped out of that he'd like to become king of the world and ran for president of the UN. This ties in neatly with our signing of this World Health Organization document that initially hands over our sovereignty to the WHO, and from the last weekend in May, they can invade this country, do whatever they like to us. They can lock us down. They can commit whatever crime they like with impunity.
Mm.
No Australian law will be valid toward any of them. And our government signed us up to that. So If you present, how many people that you speak to at the moment while you're out campaigning are aware of the seriousness of that particular piece of legislation? I mean, obviously in Victoria, there's a lot of people concerned with a lot of serious bits of legislation, including the one that says you're not going to be allowed to grow fruit and veggies in your backyard anymore. But
Mm.
what about just on this point? Are people, first of all, is there a level of understanding of it? And second of all, do they care?
I think the whole health treaty is actually very well hidden. It's very, very difficult to find information on it. So I don't think it's broadly known in the community for a start. But those that are awake, yeah, they're quite concerned, very concerned. It's
I find it, well, not difficult to understand that people aren't aware of it, because you're quite right. It has been hidden from us. People in my Facebook group or some of the other groups that I'm part of do have access to finding all that information. And I'll see if I can't put it up and post it in the description below after we get done here. So what are the other platforms that you're going to stand on going, let's say you get elected? Do you need a new sports centre? Is there some sort of union that needs bribing so a new shopping centre can be built in your electorate? How are you going to approach going into Parliament?
Well, I think we need to address the big issues first before we look at the local community issues, because there's so much wrong with what's happening at the moment. We've lost a lot of our onshore manufacturing through the Lima Agreement, another one of those United Nations issues.
Yes.
So we need to build back small business, which have been really hit hard through the lockdowns, Victoria, the lockdown state.
Yeah.
And we need to look at some of these things that are coming in at other countries. The whole biological women and biological men and sport, where women are really compromised by having to compete against men that perhaps identify as women. How fair is that? Yeah.
I was having this conversation with the Aussie Cossack a few weeks ago, and I said then that I have absolutely no problem with trans people wanting to play sports. Let's just get a trans category together, and you can all play against each other. I think that's absolutely fair and reasonable. I think it's quite unreasonable to expect trans men and women crossing over and not expecting to be handicapped in some way at the very least. I mean, I don't know about horse racing and handicapping very much. I know that it's got something to do with weight, but you can be guaranteed that if there was a quick runner capable of winning the Melbourne Cup, they wouldn't put my backside on the back of the horse, because that would be a hell of a handicap. So
Yeah.
there must be a way of...
Sorry, I'm really looking to build a self-reliant Australia, so that we're not reliant on a whole lot of other countries, and say China in particular, that have particular issues with human rights. I don't think we should be trading with the CCP.
Yep, sure. I'm with you 100%. So what are your thoughts then on the current issues with the Solomon Islands? And I gather that you will be one of many strong independent voices in this Parliament that will demand that we withdraw from the UN completely.
I certainly think we need to look at each agreement and those that are actually detrimental to Australia. But yes, I think on the whole we need to extract ourselves totally, because they are largely funded by countries such as China, the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah.
Deep state
Players,
businesses, corporations, pariahs. You're right. Yeah, great word. So
that
has to be found out, rooted out, and replaced. And you certainly sound like you're quite determined to get to that. And Ricardo Bosi would love having you on his team, I am sure. People keep asking, well, what can independents do? Or A1 isn't a party. Now, you, like many of us, are starting to come to understand that parties are illegal under our constitutional system. And and this is what you've already said tonight, you're standing as an independent because you are, a sovereign person. And this is the way our Parliament was always meant to be worked, with a whole bunch of sovereign people standing up to represent the people in their community. Um,
Yes.
how are you being accepted on the hustings? You said before there are 12 people vying for this seat. You guys must be pushing each other off the busiest corners in your electorate, waving your placards around.
Well, some have got a very low profile. I haven't even seen some of the candidates. It's unfortunate, I think, that you can actually stand for candidacy outside of your electorate, and only 5 of us, I believe, actually live in this electorate. So I find it very difficult how someone outside the electorate can really represent the electorate within Parliament.
Maybe we can ask Christina Keneally how that works, because I'm led to believe that's exactly how she works her electorate. She lives over on the North Shore, but actually rents an apartment somewhere in the West, but doesn't really live in it. And that's hardly, you're right, representing. You want someone who's been in the community for some time, who knows the intimacies, from the potholes that need fixing to the
School
other infrastructure
proximity, yeah.
required for elderly and sick and everything else. So, and somebody who's not interested in lining their own pockets first. There are so many things wrong with the party system that even if you go in with the best intentions in the world, you'll be offered this sweet little seat on a committee where you don't have to say anything, but it's worth another $60,000 or $70,000 a year tax free to you, and then you'll get this other little sweetener here, and all of a sudden you'll just be asked, well, all you have to do is say yay or nay when we tell you to say yay or nay, and all that keeps going. And that's how easily people can be diverted into the party system. I'm really pleased to see that there is such a large group of people, not just A1 supported, but especially A1 supported, who are standing up for the people, and there will be none of that acceptable. I think if Ricardo Bozzi found anybody that was, not doing the right thing in his party, they would be first to be brought before the court for justice. So, and his justice does seem to some people to be quite harsh. How does that settle on you?
Well, you have to look at the crimes, though. How harsh are the crimes?
Yeah.
The whole idea that because you're in a position of power, an ex-prime minister, for example, or in the judiciary, why should that offer you protection? Everyone needs to be accountable and transparent and responsible for their own actions. That's how I see it.
I would have thought, particularly as it pertains to those 28 names that Ricardo rails about quite regularly, I would have thought that they especially need to be made public, so that I realise most of them are probably dead or certainly out of public office now, but should that happen in the future, people will not keep re-electing these people to represent them. Nobody would if they found out some of the crimes that they'd committed. So,
and if they're not called to account, that means they're free to continue whatever crime they've been committing.
Yes, exactly right. And they have managed to avert the I don't want to say public shaming or ridicule, but the public exposure that pedophiles who have committed similar or even lesser crimes than some of those potentially who've been hidden from us in Canberra, they have had to suffer the shame, if you like, of television cameras being pointed at them and people seeing them on the street or finding out where they live and starting a petition to have them moved out of that street and out of that state, in one case, for one fella I can remember. And I think that started in Queensland and progressed to New South Wales. And by the time they handed him out of New South Wales, I think he died anyway, just ran out of puff. Now, no great loss to the world, but he was exposed and shamed every day for his public life after serving a very, very long or a number of very, very long sentences for heinous crimes. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been public shamed. What I'm saying is those people who have committed those crimes have all had that shaming. For some reason, our Australian politicians don't have to suffer that.
Yeah, and I think it's very wrong that because of their public office or ex-public office that they're protected. and
Yes,
and
it
not
seems
called out.
like the gold card. It's like the gold card. It just keeps on giving, doesn't it?
And they use the excuse that the public will lose the faith in the institution, like Parliament. Well, I think the
Yeah.
public are losing their faith in the institution, or I hope they are, as it stands
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So
Mm.
tell us a bit about Dominique Murphy. 5 years in the Chisholm electorate, small business owner, or do you work for someone, or you're a teacher? What do you do?
I'm actually a qualified librarian, but I've been working as a project manager um, in the public service.
That'd be a challenge.
Yes. But yeah, that's one of the things I found of late, that I was really losing my drive for my passion for my job. And I think it's because I came to see that there was another direction that I needed to go. And
Yep,
this is
sure. We all
uh,
get moved in mysterious ways, don't we?
mm, mm,
Yeah, yeah. You're not the first one to say such things. There I was one day sitting on the tractor, and out of nowhere, I had this great thought, and it wasn't just a thought; it drove me.
mm.
So I pulled the tractor over and rang somebody, and next thing you know, I'm lined up and running for an election, and that's great. I think Ricardo can take a great deal of the responsibility for that. He engenders a sort of, well, I don't want to call it patriotic fervor, but it is to a point. He's able to engender those protectionist type feelings for Australians, particularly as you mentioned, with China being on the rise at the moment, the Solomon Islands playing a particular role at this point in time. How do you see that playing out, and where do you stand with our new union with the UK and the US and our new nuclear submarines? When I say new, we're probably not going to get them for 40 years, but yeah, where do you stand with all that?
Oh gosh.
I know it's a big ocean and a big question.
It is a big
Um,
question. I mean,
so
part of it, Australia needs to become, as you would have heard from Ricardo, militarily intimidating.
yeah,
Whether the best way is through the purchase of these secondhand submarines, we really need to look at what the best way is to defend ourselves. I mean, increasingly, we don't have to do hand-to-hand combat, but we need the technology to be able to defend our own soil, so that we're
yeah,
not threatened. How far we stick our noses into others' businesses, I think we need to get our own country straight first, but also we need to be prepared to defend our interests that we do have overseas.
yeah, yeah. I think you're 100% right. There's no point in us going off to fight somebody else's war until we can make sure we can look after our own backyard first.
And
And
if you look at the history, how many of our wars have been started by the politics and the government with it's not, and it's the people that suffer.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely, it is.
yeah,
Uh,
it's not people's
and,
war.
and it's only the rich people who become richer.
Mm,
It's the
yes,
poor people and the sons and daughters of the poor people who sign themselves off to go off and fight these wars and not come back.
yeah, and
It's very rarely the sons and daughters of the rich people.
if you really look into it, often certain people were actually funding both sides of the war, and they made their money through all the associated manufacture of arms or
Yes,
interest.
yeah. Well, I recall, well, two specific stories about World War II. Standard Oil was a fuel company in America, and it was owned by the Rockefellers
Mm,
prior to World War II. They made an additive that was required in the engines that the Luftwaffe used in their aircraft. Now, if the engines didn't have this American-made Standard Oil additives added to the fuel, it couldn't fly above, I think it was 500 or 600 feet.
mm,
So they couldn't have flown from Germany to England and bombed England. Standard Oil also, I think, were responsible for oh no, I beg your pardon, Henry Ford, the Ford Motor Company, were responsible for providing the engines to Hitler's army. So at any time, Henry Ford or the Rockefellers could have stopped World War II at
Exactly
any
right.
time.
But it was in their
But,
interest not to
of
do so.
course, they were making that's right. They were making money.
Mm.
So, and that's the way all wars are fought. You're 100% correct. Hopefully, with what comes next, there won't be any need for war, and the Chinese coming down and visiting, places like the Solomon Islands just simply means they're collecting a bit of fruit, a bit of sun, and they're going to be on their way. They're not going to set up base and rocket launches because
Yes.
it's less than
Oh,
2,000 kilometres from the Australian coastline.
exactly right. And we do need to look after our regional neighbours as best we can. But at the moment, we're
Is
hard
there
pressed
more
to
we
look
can?
after ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I've been asked that question. What more can we do? It's only going to cost us money. A lot of this money is gone in corruption and wasted on certain things. And I have stories that I'm certainly privy to about certain nations' leaders who come here and have a great time. I worked in the limousine business for a long time, and I can tell you a
You would
few
have seen some
stories.
things.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. We've seen things.
Mm.
There are certainly wasteful individuals, corrupt individuals in all, and I'm not calling any of our neighbours out, but we've got enough of them in our own government. You're full of them just like we are. So
Mm.
we need to stand up. When I say we, I mean all of us as a people, as a race, need to stand up and find these cretinous humans who are corrupting the system and making our life hard. And I'm really pleased to see that Australia has got a party like Australia One that is filling with individuals who feel like I do, that they want the best for the country, they want the best for their neighbours, they want the best for their community, the best for their state, the best for the country, and are willing to negotiate all of that without having to go to war with anyone for any of it. All we ask is a fair deal, and I think that's what A1 is all about, don't you?
Exactly right. We're looking to um, look. We're looking at a grassroots movement so that the voices of the people are heard at all levels. We need to have a bigger role in Parliament. I
Yeah.
think we're all at fault in part. We've taken our eye off the game. We trusted them to do the right thing. They took advantage of that trust, and that's why we're in the situation we are now. It's not a thing that's happened over a couple of years. It's been decades in the making.
Absolutely. One of our viewers has just sent in a statement more than a question. The Iron Dome missile defense shield combined with a space-based direct energy weapon system could be a very good regional defense system.
It could well
I've
be.
got to ask the question. There is a lot of talk about direct energy weapons. There's a lot of talk about uh, other sorts of weapons. I'll mention the rods of God as one such thing. Uh, have you heard those stories, and where do you stand on them if you have?
Oh, I've definitely heard of them. I think there's a lot going on in the background that we're not necessarily aware of. I think there's a lot of things being
Yeah.
cleared out and being dealt with, and hopefully a lot will come to light to wake people up about what's really been going on.
I'm speaking to the Aussie Cossack a little bit later tonight. I don't know if it'll be live or offline, but he, of course, is a very large proponent, as am I, of the alternate story to what's going on in Ukraine at the moment. Vladimir Putin isn't actually waging war on the civilian population of Ukraine. He is, in fact, cleaning out deep-seated Nazis that have been controlling the world in evil ways for many years.
Yes.
That might
Well,
be a very large shock to a lot of people to come to. Yeah, but in part, this is some of the thing of what you're saying. We have to clean out, and we have to clean out from inside the parliament.
exactly right. I think the government have been doing a lot of things that are detrimental to the population as a whole. You can go down many rabbit holes, as I've done, and
Yeah.
there's just so many things that they're effectively poisoning the population in many ways.
And the fact is that the larger portion of the population will become aware of this at some point. They
I hope
will
so.
eventually wake up to this at some
I hope
point.
so.
And it's people like you, it's people like Ricardo and others that are standing up for A1 and other independents. I think I might be involved too, who
Mm.
are really going to be at the forefront of having to deal with these people when they get, well, finally, the realization of what's happened. That's not going to be a joyous day for any of us, is it?
No, no, it's actually going to be quite distressing. I think for everyone involved, people that have realised that they've done the wrong thing, in taking medications or injections, vaccines, um, and perhaps getting people.
Accepting the government directive
Yep,
without question, not understanding that the word mandate doesn't mean compulsory,
yeah,
you
and
know?
the media have been complicit in pushing the story, uh, as have many prominent actors and um, politicians, and people just don't understand that it is still an experimental drug. This vaccine, shall we say, in inverted commas.
Mhm.
So there's no
Yep.
obligation, and it's against the Nuremberg Code and a whole lot of things that are in place to protect us. But the government have just been overriding, saying, "Well, yeah, don't care, you got to have it," and
So
the companies have been.
if you get elected and if you get elected and there are enough independents in the parliament to make a difference and be heard, who will you be chasing down and asking questions of in regards to all of this? You know, the
Wow,
health department, yeah, the former
I think
ministers. I mean, where will you start?
I think starting is the hard part. I think they've all been complicit in one way or another, if not fully aware, in just not asking the questions about why this has been done, how effective it is, um,
Yep.
why they're putting mandates on when there's other therapeutics that are available, which have been very effective in other countries,
Well,
um,
well,
and the whole censorship and squashing other voices.
life a
It's
bit
just very
hard. No,
frustrating.
yeah, absolutely. I think we just had a little bit of a connection drop out there, and oh well, look, we've just about run out of time anyway. Dominic, just before we do go, then you're running in the seat of Chisholm in Victoria. So for people in that electorate who can get out and vote, I know pre-polling is available now, so somebody might have that vote sitting or their pre-poll sitting on their desk at the moment. What would be your advice? How do you get the best use of let's say I'm in electorate, how do I get the best use of my vote in your electorate to make sure that you have the best chance of going forward?
Okay. Well, people really need to do their research. One of the ways to do that is look at the various how to vote cards, because that's very telling as to whether an independent is truly independent. Have a look where they put the major parties, um, but they can certainly have a look at my website, and I'll have put up my how to vote card on that, my recommendations. So
Yep.
that's just www.dominiquemurphyindependent.net. But yeah, they really, really need to do their research and look at the other how to vote cards and see where they put the major parties.
Sure, sure. That is the biggest. That is the biggest fight we are facing this election. Put the majors last.
Mm.
Put the independents first, but make sure if you
They're
have an
true
A1 supported
independents.
independent. Yeah, yeah, like in Chisholm, you have an A1 supported independent with Dominique. You know exactly what you're going to get, and you know that her second preference or first preference isn't going to go to Labor, Liberal, or the Greens. She'll, I assume, you'll be preferencing other independents who feel similar to you. So 12 people contesting it, so people have a bit to learn.
Mm.
Now, are you out over the next few days or so meeting people in public? Can people come and meet you, ask you questions?
Yep, I've actually got an event at Glen Waverley Community Centre tomorrow night at 7:30, and it's going to be very much a Q&A. So if people want to come and meet me and ask me anything, please feel free to do so.
Excellent. I would encourage as many people as possible to get along and have a bit of a chat with Dominique and find out exactly how loud her voice can be for you, standing for Chisholm in the electorate. And thank you very much for joining us tonight, Dominique. We've had a couple of goes at getting this right. I've had technical problems. You've been busy. We've eventually got to it. So I'm really pleased that we've got here eventually. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for the opportunity.